مشاهدي فضائية جمهورية جنوب السودان، أحييكم عبر برنامج نبني بلدنا. برنامجنا اللي بيتناول بعض القضايا بتهم المواطن وبتهم البلد. وفي مقدمة هذه البرنامج الأستاذ كارلو أريغواني، معه ضيوف معززين ومكرمين عبر SSBC in Juba Live. Dr. James Peter Morgan, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, now he is a special envoy to our president in Great Lakes countries. You are most welcome in this program of Building the Nation.
شكرا.
Yeah. وبعدين معانا نمرة 2 زولنا دائما مخضرم برضو معانا الأستاذ وفي نفس الوقت هانربل رئيس غرفة التجارية لادو لوكاك. You are highly most welcome. مرحب بك في برنامج بتاعنا. And here I have my co-host, Ambassador John Androgaduku. You are really high most welcome. Today I have 2 ambassadors and 1 honorable with me in the studio, and we are going to discuss very sensitive things regarding.
Thank you very much, Carlo, and also wanted to welcome Carlo back to the studio again. Last week, Carlo was not feeling well, and this is for the information of the people who are watching this program, and we are going to discuss area concerning diplomacy, where former Minister Tia will be able to handle it, and then with Lodolo Kak, we are going to handle issue concerning the situation with the trade and Chamber of Commerce, and also the recent unfortunate fire, which has continued to burn our market. Thank you, Carlo.
We need to put an end to that. Okay. Yes. Honorable Dr. James Peter Morgan, we believe the foreign policy of our country is to promote the international cooperation, specifically within the United Nations family, African Union, international and regional organization. Honorable, of course, this one is for the purpose of consolidating universal peace and security, respect of international law, treaties obligation, so that we carry on our diplomacy within the international arena and the region. Please, where are we? South Sudan has been sanctioned by Security Council. Where is our diplomacy, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Carlos, and also Ambassador John Doku. First of all, I want to be saying here today, thank you very much for inviting me today to this program. And I also want to thank our Ustaz Nadolo Kak. So the program is today full. So we have a lot to discuss today. First of all, let me start by our diplomacy. As a sovereign nation, of course, we have to play our role in all the diplomatic arenas. I had been in African Union for almost 8 years of my career as a diplomat. Most of the time I spent in the African Union. In African Union, I was also an ambassador accredited to the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and as well I also was accredited to Djibouti. These are the 2 countries that I was managing our bilateral relations between the 2 countries, Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and Republic of Djibouti, concurrently. On the multilateral stations, I was managing the issues of the African Union, which was the biggest file. And then on the other hand, I was also dealing with the Economic Commission, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. And then also on the regional, our region here, I was also a member of the Committee of Ambassadors accredited to IGAD. So these were the major big files that for the 8 years I had been in Addis Ababa. dealing with the issues of our diplomacy on the bilateral level as well as the multilateral level in these three areas. Well, coming back to your question, Ustaz, our diplomacy as a country, when South Sudan became independent on July 9, 2011, we established our missions abroad. And these missions, at that moment, we were having like 30 embassies abroad, including our mission to the United Nations in New York. Of course, what is diplomacy? Diplomacy is a friendship. A friendship, first of all, with our neighboring countries, and then the continent, which is Africa, and then the world at large. Here, then we come back. What is our foreign policy? Our foreign policy focuses on our friends, based also on our history of struggle. You know that South Sudan was born out of the struggle, which was divided into two phases of the struggle. Leave alone the previous struggles that were not recorded, because if we go back, it had been a struggle all the time. But now we focus on the two sections of the struggle, which was the first struggle was the one led by Anyanyawan and ended in 1972 through the Addis Ababa Agreement. Then when the Addis Ababa Agreement was not respected by the same Khartoum regimes, the SPLA, SPLM picked it up in 1983. And SPLA fought it through all the way up to the time of the CPA, 2005. So our foreign policy should be focusing on this during our struggle. Interests. If myself and Ustaz Lukaku are friends, so his friends in bilateral are his friends. I am his friend bilaterally. But multilaterally, which include now all of us here, each and every one of two of us will have our own different interests. And that is something that is very important here, that in our Institute of Diplomatic Studies, that is within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that need to be understood very well. Second to that, or thirdly, our foreign policy, up to today, as we speak in this studio, we have not yet come up with the foreign policy that we should run our diplomacy. Foreign policy is something that also needs to be written like a book that guides the diplomats outside.
Like the Constitution.
Like the Constitution.
Yeah.
Here, for example, we have the Constitutive Act of the African Union. This is called the Constitutive Act. This Constitutive Act is like a constitution of African Union, why the African Union is established. And then it goes back to the charter of OAU, where the African Union came from. Mm-hmm. So, we up to today, we have not yet presented our foreign policy to the Parliament of South Sudan, which is a National Transitional Legislative Assembly of South Sudan, to go through it. Because what I'm saying here should be a policy that should be written by all.
A framework.
A framework.
Legal framework.
To be prepared. And that foreign policy should be our guide. And it should be the one to guide us. Because sometimes the diplomats fall victims. If you are a diplomat in the United Nations, in the multilateral stations, or in Addis Ababa, which is also a multilateral station, and you come with the idea that during our struggle, who were our friends? Hey, Carlo was helping us. Let us support Carlo because of that support. This is now based on your guessing.
You are
As
paying
somebody who is matured, you know that who are our friends during our struggle. Sometimes you may be hurting somebody's feelings here, and then they say, hey, this ambassador went and supported Carlos. We expected that he should have supported John Duku, but he went and supported Carlos as Carlos. And that is why the foreign policy is very important to guide the diplomats when they're doing their work outside there.
And this is what we are missing now.
And that is, up to today, we have not yet come out with the foreign policy to guide our diplomats outside. That is one. But for ambassadors who are matured and those who are involved in the struggle, they know. But what you know should not be enough. You need to be guided.
Yeah.
When it comes to the arenas of diplomacy, you need to be guided with your foreign policy, where you need to have it all the time to guide you. Like during my time in the African Union, these 3 books. These are every ambassador must be given this. You must be given this, so that you know exactly what the African Union is all about. What you need to know is the Constitutive Act of the African Union. Secondly, you need to know also the rules and procedures of how the meetings are being conducted in African Union. Thirdly, you will be guided by the African Charter, which came as the result of the OAU. Yes, finally, this is an agenda. This agenda is our work as ambassadors in African Union. We are the one preparing this. Like in the year 2020, we came up with the agenda that the guns in Africa must be silenced. So this is what we call silencing the guns in Africa. Okay, we will come back to this.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is, Sas Carlo and the colleagues who are sitting here with us, is today to know that the diplomacy is to be guided by the foreign policy.
Wonderful.
Which all of us must work on it, bring it to the parliament, or like the SPLM, which is a party, should be mostly involved when it comes into the writing of the foreign policy, and then it will be presented to the parliament. The parliament will debate on it, add or subtract, and then after that, it will be presented to the President of the Republic, His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, who will now ascend on it, and then it becomes the foreign policy of the
Republic of South Sudan. This is wonderful,
yes.
Dr. James Pitia Morgan.
Yes.
Let me just give you a little bit of rest. I will come back to you.
Thank you.
لأنه لو كان حصل عندنا 2 حاجات ده هيستمر في السياسات الدبلوماسية بتاعنا وهنا نرجع لمشاكل بتاعنا الداخلية اللي هو المشاكل بتاعنا الداخلية الاقتصادية أو تجار بتاعنا لأسواق لسه قاعد يحرق وإنت رئيس بتاع الغرفة التجارية هنا لسه ما قدرنا نعرف كونيا حرق قبل شهور كونوا لجنة ولجنة قام في تحري كويس وبتحري ده لحد يوم الليلة هنا ما عندنا نتيجة هنا درنا نعرف منك انتوا الأقربين للتجار ده نصيحونا لأنه these both 2 programs it is a civic education. We are educating ourselves through our mistakes. We learn from our mistakes, then we educate ourselves. هنا درنا نصحي الأخطاء اللي هنربط لادو كده وضح للمشاهدين بتاعنا او للجمهوريه بتاع جنوب السودان عشان الاخطار ما يمشي ملكال ما يمشي واو ما يمشي اويل ما يمشي بنتيو ما يمشي توريت ما يمشي يامبيو ما يمشي يي عشان نقدر ناخد له حدود ناس يستمروا في النشاطات الاقتصاديه بتاعهم. انت بتقول شنو؟
شكرا يا سيد كارلو والسفير بتاعنا الليله معنا في بإذاعة بالتلفزيون اللي هو جون ناندوغا وأخوي الكبير الوزير السابق مورغان بيتيا. أنا بشكرك يا كارلو ببرنامج الليلة وده دايما نحن قبل كده ونسنا كلام حاجات عن السوق والحاجات قاعدة تحصل في موضوع حرائق. الإجراءات اللي كان عمل نفسه في لجنة كان كونه عشان لجنة يتابع حريقة بتاع كونيو كان، واللجنة دي كان شغال ماشي كويس عشان ما يشوف كم دقاقين حرق ودقاقين ده اللي حرقت ده كلف شنو وحاجات اللي كان حرقوا جوا شنو لجنة كان شغال فيه. اللجنة كان بعد ده يجي يرفع للجهة المختص. هنا كغرفة تجارية لحد هسه اللجنة ده ما لقينا نتيجة، لأنه عندنا ناس فوقه تا غرفة، في رئيس تا غرفة تجارية بتاع كونيو كونيو واحد اسمه لودو مانيان، ويا كان متابع الكلام ده. فهو مفروض لما يلقى النتيجة يرفع لرئيس بتاع سنترال إيكوتوريا في ولاية، وبعد رئيس سنترال إيكوتوريا يرفع لناشونال شامبر. ده كان تسلسل اللي كان بيحصل. هو في محل ده أصله في محل هناك مفروض هو بيرفع ريبورت لرئيس سيتي كانسل المسؤول من كونيو كونيو ومونوكي وكاستوم وين ده. رئيس السيتي كانسل يجي يرفع لرئيس سنترال إيكوتوريا، ورئيس سنترال إيكوتوريا يجي يرفع لناشونال شامبر حتى نجينا، لأنه إننا قومي ودي الولاية. فحاجات ده ما حصل، لأنه حتى أمبارح أنا كنت بونس مع رئيس سنترال إيكوتوريا، هو ما قادر يوضح لي بالضبط كده. عشان كده أنا رجعت له، هو بس قال لي في حريقة تاني قوم وين؟ في كاستوم. ها أنا قلت الحريقة ده شكله كيف ومن شنو ذاته؟ نفس الكيفية اللي كان في كونيو كونيو ده كهرباء. ده كهرباء يعمل حريقة يعني. أنا سألته قلنا له طيب أنت كرئيس أنت مشيت فوقه؟ قال أنا مشيت. واللي لقيته الحريقة ده توصيله مني عمله. هل ده نسجتكو ولا ده تجاري يعمل توصيل عشوائي؟ أنت لو مذكر دور الفاضي يا كارلو الحريقة تا كونيو كونيو كان حريقة بطال ما حصلوا، لأنه ما في طريق اللي بيدخل العربية عشان يمشي ينقذوا الحريقة، طريق ما في. لكن ده امبارح كلمت مع زول ده قال لي يا أخي ما في أي تأثير في حريقة ده، يعني في قريب زي 10 دقاقين، لكن ما يتأثر ببداء وما يتأثر بالأجل ده بالحريقة يعني عشان يكملوا أجل كله. هو وصف لي قال الحريقة ده هو ما في نوستا كاستوم، هو في طرف هناك سايد القاينو نيوكرين، يعني في شارع هناك بين الجد وفي دقاقين اللي تكاستوم ده أمارات ده. أي قال في الشارع ده قال في آخر هناك ياو حريقة ده عمل في يدك الشمال، ياو حريقة ده عمل. وفعلا الحريقة ده أظن ما يتأثر ليه، فعلا حاجات ده هناك لسه شنو بعيد مع بعض، عشان كده حصلوا منه الأجر ده. يعني اللي يتأثر شوية كده بكون زي 5 دقايق، باقين ده كله بيلمسوا بسيط وحصلوه. وداك ذاته التأثير بتاع 5 دقايق ده ما على قدر كده، قدر ينكسوا أفشاتهم كله مرقوا برا، وبقى يعني دكان ممكن هرق جزء بسيط لكن برضه طفوه. فكلام حرائق ده هسه جيت انا متطاول. انا امبارح ركزت كتير هل التوصيله تاجر ركزت
هو كهرباء عام ولا خاص؟
ده كهرباء عام.
دي بما جتكم ما عندنا اي شركه تاني؟
لا ما في حاجه يا برادا، في بعض من ميستيك من الناس ده برضه حاجات كتير ما يصروا لك اجر للشركه، لانه الليله عندنا علاقات معك. قول يا زول يا اخي كده نجور سيلينج مني تاني ونينا بندفع لقال نينا نشتغل مع عداد في تاك ده بقوم يدخلوا سلك وقوم وصلوا في الدكان تو هنا السلك بكون روبوتو وما عملوا له يعني ما لفوه ما شريط او كمان وعنده احتكاك مع محل اللي بيعمل شنو بيعمل شارجينج لما يعمل شارج طوال بيعمل حاجه بيلتهب بيولع نار طوالي لو لقوا حاجه صغير هنا كان قماش ولا ستاره ولا شنو طوال بم بيحرق حريقه ده بيحصل بالطريقه ده او كان لقوا في مثلا حاجات الدكان مثلا زي بامباس او ده اسمه شنو المناديل تنظافه ديل طوالي بيمسك بسرعه لانه هو ما بيشيل حاجه كبير.
ده دقيقه قبل ما ده لادو انا داير نتاكد على انه هل عندكم زيارات كغرفه تجاريه للدكاكين او للاسواق الموجوده او للمدينه ديل عشان ما تشوفوا في الاقطاع ده ولا الا لما يجي يحصل مشكله زي حصل في كونيو وفي كاستوم وهذا متعدد في كاستوم يهوتم الداتا بالبتاع بشكل زي
لكن كرو بقول له ما جو كلام عندنا صلاة انا بشوف بالنسبه له امباسادور اندوغا المراقبه ده مشكل تاع غرفه تجاريه شركه كهرباء تجدكو أمون عنده مسؤولية من محل لمحل في كلام توصيل الكهرباء لأنه منا قاعدين يسيلوا منا قاعدين توكن من دكان لدكان عشان كهرباء يبقى بقى المسؤولية المراقبة لازم يكون لشركة الكهرباء لأنه من قلبه إنتاج فيه الليلة سوق كاستوم أمون بيجي بيشوف كم دكاكين بيشوف كاستوم وبيدخل من دكان لدكان عشان يشوف عددك وين كم دكان ما عنده عدد تكهرباء بدفعه تكهرباء ولسه عنده كهرباء ده مسؤولية جدكو لأنه من ده رادر لمن ده جواهد سيتان يلا دولو كده نسال فيه ده نانو كمواطنين تبلد إن عارفين صار رجع ده ما صير كسر كتير دائما كان فيها رجع في تأثير في ارتفاع في أسعار لأنه في ناس بيصير فرصة ده بعرفوا على أساس في أجات تانيين أرجو وبعرف أسعار كون عنده تأثير للمواطن السؤال بطرح نفسه هنا لا دولوكاك نانو كمواطنين تبلد كلامنا كتير معك في برنامج كني حتى في راديو على أساس بعد إجراءات كونيو لازم يكون في تحقيق بصورة ويطلع قرارات وفتاة سواري وبنا سوايا أصلا في كاستو من لا دولوكاك يوم ده وقفوا كلام تاويل ويل ده كان يشيلوا بره عشان ما لانه وزاره ويلبر ده
ما يعمل زحمه في
الشارع ولا زاد بعد فاجأ لكن هسه ويلبر رجع في محله نهائيا
وفريسي وطا في سكه برضه
رجع كله يلا بقى سبب شنو في الكلام ده نانو دايرين نسمع منك هل في اتصالات مباشره مع بلديه جوبا عشان مدود هيل لانه هسه ده بصير به الناس اللي بدفع ضرائب وسوقته من كفلو itu gak ada musuh في الكلام ده لا دولوكا
شكرا يا اندوكا كلام تاعك ده كويس يا جون كده نجاوب لكارلو بموضوع بتاعه قبل اول حاجه زي قبل انا قوني سيني الغرفه التجاريه عنده تسلسل
ايوه ديسنترلايز لا مركزي ده فهمته
يعني ناشونال شامبر اوف كوميرس ده مسؤول من غرف ساوث السودان كله ما فيهم سنترال ايكوتوريا سنترال ايكوتوريا بمهمته هو المسؤول من الاسواق تا سنترال ايكوتوريا وقوم كون كمان محل جسم تاني اسمه جوبا سيتي كانسل
ده في اللوكال جوفرمنت
ده في اللوكال جوفرمنت في رئيس تا غرفه هناك رئيس تا غرفه تا سيتي كانسل بيقوم يكونوا رؤساء بتاع الاسواق في رئيس تا كونيو في رئيس تا جبل في رئيس تا ماونا في رئيس بتاع
كاستم ذاته
كاستم في رئيس كله اسواق ده كله عنده اسواق يبقى هنا نحن كحاجه ده نحن ما عندنا حاجه موم ديل تومون رئيس تومون يا في واحد اسمه روبرت بيتيا ده هو رئيس السنترال ايكوتوريا ديل بيرفع ريبورت لمنو لسنترال ايكوتوريا لرئيس اللي البرت روبرت فيتيا. روبرت فيتيا بيرفع لنا لناشونال شامبر. يا هسه قبل انا قلت انا سالته امبارح موضوع بتاع اجراءات ده وقف وين؟ اجراءات ده هو ذاته بقول هو ما اعرف هذا هسه لانه هو كونه لجنه من ناس السيتي كانسل بأسواق ده كله لانه ما فيهم رئيس تا جوب تا داغ اسمه شنو بحريقه ده تا كونيو يا هو رئيس ممثل في حاجه. الاجراءات ده نتيجه ما ظهر كان وقف وين ولا وقف وين لانه الناس ديل الناس ديل افرض الاجر هم يسرى ونحن نشوف نحن نساعد الناس كده. طبعا حاجه دي لما يطلع هنرفع الحكومه في خسائر بطريقه دي وده ناس في تاك الجدا فليت الدريبه حتى بعدين نرجع لناس سيتي كونسل. سيتي كونسل مشاكل تكون انتو يجيبوا سكه ما في كان انقصنا الناس ويتو دير قروش لكن كلام ده ما طلع لانه حتى منظمات تانيين ممكن ناس يمشيلهم ممكن بيساعد عشان لا قال نحن نساعد التجار ده يدي له شويه راس مال كده
عشان هو
يبدا به شغل. طبعا التجاره ذاته اصله يعني حتى كان بيجي عندك ملايين والتجاره يجي لمئات ما كده قلبتك ما قطع انت بيشيل صبر زي ما انت بدت ولقيت ملايين ده كمان كان قطع منك كان لقيت البسيط حاول دردك مو لانه العلاقه التجاري هو اساسا ما قال قروشك ده عندنا في اللغه في السوق قال لسانك ده هو رصيدك. لما تكون عندك لسان كويس في السوق حاجات دي كله بيجان ليتا موير بيجان موير كيف؟
ده بعلاقات الكويس
بعلاقات الكويس لسانك يعني متواضع وعنده كلمه يعني انت كاروا لتاجر قول اديني بودا كده وانا بجيب لك بكره انت بيجيب انت بكره في دكان تبي بكره انت وديله بس كده انت قفلت نفسك برا ما بيزول بجيب في دربك. عندنا هنا بنقولوا راس مالك هو رصيدك ولسانك هو الرصيد بتاعك لانه انت زول ما بكذب وانت زول ما بيجري مع حق زول وانت زول ما داير اكل حق زول ممكن تفلس ساسا اخوانك ممكن يجيف معك بيساعدك لكن لو انت عمال تاكي بطال ما بيزول ده وانا يا اخي ما تحاول الا كان تدير ودي له ساكت
ولا ونيو
ده ما قد دفع دين قال يا
ما له ونيو يا ولد
خلاص كويس
ارجع لي يا بصره كلام بتاعك شنو قلت؟
انا قلت هسه لو كات يعني في اسواق
زحمه كتير والبلد رجع
وزي هسه ده رئيس غرفه تجارات تكاستم بيقولوا عربيه المطافي جا متاخر
دور الفات زي ده لكن ده نحن كان بنلوم قال دي السكه لكن عندك حريقه داك ده وفي سايد الجنوبيه في سكه بين الجد محلة جدة وامارات القومو في طرف ده سكه في النص كان عربيه ده بيجري بصوره براك ده وفي سكه كمان بيلفوا بينك بيقدر على جو حاجه ده
تاكيرات ما قال سكه ما في تاكيرات ده هم بيقولوا افريقيا في كل اسواق كل مطافي في قايد محل مطافي قايد فيه مشوار بعيد من سوق عشان كده سلمون زمان
الوصل طبعا ambassador we are carrying civic education wait
لا ما
wait just minutes we are carrying civic education so that there is a lot of stakeholders here. These stakeholders they are now watching us and they are following us. We need to give them recommendations so that كلام بتاعك ده can materialize.
لا ما لسه ما جاوب كلام ده كانوا جاوب اول ما تكات كلام ده وده الكلفيات
كويس
انا زود دي كلفيات سنه بجاوب كلام ده
عشان زمن ترنا كمان
انا فاهم لكن انت شفت كارلو civic education ما دي كومبليت كمان ما كون نص نص سؤال اني كارلو دول كاك اسا في يوم داك بلديه طلع توجهات على اساس الويلبرات وتفريس الشارع ده ممنوع وبالفعل من وقف حاجه اللي والبرات كله شالوه لكن اليوم تروح كده في سوق شوف والبرات رجع في محله وتجاره القدفه ضرائب الزباين ما بوصل لهم ده سؤال تاي ليتا موقف غرفه تجاره وين وكلام ده ليه ما تنفيذ ده وقف كلام شنو
انت عارف يا سيد السفير ما اي حاجه قال غرفه تجاريه. غرفه تجاريه عنده محل تو هو فوق، لانه ما قاعد يشيل قروش من سوق ولا كده ولا عنده شغله مع السوق. ده مهمه بتاع سيتي كانسل.
نعم.
سيتي كانسل هو يا بقوم بواجب ده. يعني على سبيل المثال كاستوم ده تحت بلوك تا منوكي. افرو بلوك تا منوكي عشان يلقى دخلي ياودك محلات زي ده بيشيل فوق القروش. انت تلقوه انت فارش تحت يدوك رصيد غرامه وامرك برا من مال ده، يلقوه تاويل بر غرامه اجري ما بوليس ما سنو شويه ناس بخاف. ليه؟ في حاجه عندنا هنا هسه في جنوب السودان، في حاجات كتير لو خشينا في حاجات ده، في حاجات كتير ماشي غلط. الليله هسه انت قاعد في دكان جوا، في ناس فارس لك في قسم باب، وانت هنا سيتي كانسل بار بيتا اللي عنده الدكان ده مو بيجا قال رخصتك وين؟ والله يا اخي محل في عنكبوت هنا دايرين فوق 200,000. والله يا اخي لكن زول اللي فارس ليتا قدام ده ولا قاس على يبقى وين اللاجئ؟ زبون ذاته اللي بيجا ليتا من محل ده عشان يجي نوتو زول ده بيجا كيف لا دي جوا الدكان وفارس لك في قسم باب بتاع الدكان. ونفسه كده حكومة ما بتقدر تطرده. ده حكومة مفروض يا بتطرده. لو انت طردتها هيعمل مشاكل يا حاجة. قالت دير قاتا استو. شفت؟ عشان كده انت قال حصة يعني انا اخاته الحياة اللي انا لقيت في حكومة 72 حياة جميل جدا جدا. والنظام نظام في النظام. هسه ده يا كارلو ما في النظام. مواطنين هسه حاليا ما في النظام. انت بلقوا محل صغير زي ده ناس كتير بيجا بنا فوق قطيار ركوبات وشنو ويعمل ازعاج ناس اللي عنده اوطان. ومن يابيغا بعمل فوضى لناس اللي عنده اوطان. ده واحد. اثنين انت عندك هوستاك ده واقف في موقع تمام. ناس بيعملوا ركوبه في دار هوسبيتال. هسه انت هسه بعمل شنو هسه في المحل ده؟ كان تكلم بدقيقتك. وده كان زمان في كم وسبعين ابن التبالي الصغار ده زمان عندنا تبالي بتاع السجاير وحلويات وبسكويتات. تبالي ده قبل عليه مانا وما يقعد في الشارع الرئيسي. الشارع الرئيسي ده نضيف. انت ده روح من هنا لحد جوبا انت ما باينه تبليه في السكه. لكن هسه ده bodo geja fi nusika asan zobun yejer kepano de nasa alger akil alga kolo alita bukuto fi kasma ما جيكو ركبوه في محل مخطط ما منظم والمرة ذاته الجي ركبوا شكله ذاته زي شنو ما معروف لا روبوتو راس لا عملوا شنو
ده طبعا حاجاتنا بنشيره كده. هنا نمشي لفاصل قصير. Viewers around the world and across South Sudan, let us go for a short break and we shall be back. We are here in SSBC in Juba live.
Okay.
كلام
Viewers around the world and across South Sudan, welcome back to this program of Building the Nation. Now, Ambassador Dr. James Pitia Morgan. Of course, one of the foreign policy in our country is, according to the Constitution, that we need to combat international and transnational organized crimes such as piracy, terrorism, and so on and so forth. Ambassador, we have been receiving people by the top leaderships of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who have been deported from other countries to us here without following the proper procedures. And as you know that we have the new ambassadors who are going to be sent to our foreign missions. And I believe they are going to face these difficulties. Your advice to your colleagues, the new one, and those who are in the mission, regarding this issue, because sometimes it is backfiring us. A criminal which has been deported is highly received by the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the airport, in front of the cameras, is reflecting in diplomacy. And those are some mistakes. The normal citizen like myself will face it with that country. I need your advice and civic education on that.
Thank you once again for coming back. Thank you also, as Lado, Lukak. I've learned something here also. That's good. This is a very good conversation. We are going back again to foreign affairs issues. During the time of the interim period, 6 years that we were in the interim period with Sudan, I had an opportunity of being in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Sudan. In the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the question that you bring up should be addressed by senior ambassadors, former ministers of foreign affairs. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs should be made a place where junior diplomats, there's a program in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs where the former ministers, the former ambassadors, the former senior officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs come and give lectures to the new appointed diplomats, including all those who are promoted as ambassadors, so that they can benefit from the experience of those who had been in foreign affairs. This is the program that our Ministry of Foreign Affairs should also adapt it now. Coming to the second question of whether receiving deportees from other countries who are South Sudanese and are being deported back home, that is not the work of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It is the Ministry of Interior to receive such people, not by senior officials of the Ministry of Interior. These people are criminals. They are being deported from those countries because of the crimes that they have committed in that country. So that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has no role here to play. It is the Ministry of Interior to send police officers to see the arrival of such criminals, because a crime anywhere is a crime everywhere. If you are a criminal somewhere else, you also can be a criminal in South Sudan. So why should you be given that soft reception by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is always play soft diplomacy? We have the people in uniform to come and see you as a criminal being deported from another country back to us here. When you come out from the plane, your eyes must see somebody in uniform, so that if the criminal will know that there is also law here. And that criminal must be told upon arrival that we have received your papers of why you were deported there. Since that crime was committed not in our soil, but also know that what you did there is also not condoned here. If you make the same mistake here, we will lock you up. And now that you have come, you are a South Sudanese, maybe when he's arriving, his relatives are there. And the relatives must be told, whether the parents, if it is father or mother or the relatives, they will be told that your son has been deported. Because I don't say your daughter, because I have not seen a girl
female,
who has been deported. The people who are being deported are always these young boys of ours. So he must be told in front of his relatives, and the relatives also should be warned. I was happy during the time when the former IGP, Marol was able to cleanse Juba from these people known as what, Tong Tong or whatever. They were called what?
Niggas and
Torontos and niggas.
Yes.
Yeah.
When Marol was the IGP, Marol cleared them up. And that Christmas, Marol was even telling us that if you want to sleep even on the road, bring your bed and sleep here. Nobody will attack you. Because they were cleared. So a criminal coming to this country must not be the work of the Minister of Foreign Affairs to go and receive. And then at the top of it also minister. What for? This is the work of police and our law enforcement people to go and see the eyes of the criminal. That, brother, where you are deported, there is a law there, and also here there is a law. You commit the same mistake here, we lock you up, so that the person can be afraid.
Kitia, let me have a follow-up on this with you.
Yes.
First of all, just to update and to enlighten the people here. Kitia, there is an issue here. The way this South Sudanese deported are treated, it is what caused, that is what allowed them to establish what they call Toronto and Niger. South Sudanese from Egypt, they were cutting people's head in Egypt, so many things they are doing very bad.
Correct.
When they are brought here, on arrival at the airport, the relative claimed that this is our son. What you are saying has never been done.
Yes.
Ever since. And IGP was sitting in a chair here, the way you are sitting now, the current IGP. We put it to him, why does criminals who were known criminal, hardcore criminal, brought to South Sudan and released their relatives? He confessed here that it was wrong.
Yeah, correct.
Now, that process is what will allow those criminals to form what they call Niger and Torontos. Now, that's not the end of it.
Correct.
In 2013, when the crisis happened here in Juba, those who hold dual citizenship, the South Sudanese passport and American passport, throw their passport in the airport. They fled to America. They were deported, they went back as American citizens. America welcomed them. Some of them now went and commit crime in America. That claim that the Americans has been thrown through the window, and they are sent back to South Sudan. When they are leaving from here, our government did not demand that this person is dual citizens. Some of them even commit crime. They killed people during the 2013 war, but they fled as American citizens. They were not brought to book on this. The question
in the airport there, when we are together with you,
yes,
not Americans alone, even other
Australians and European passports, they throw their passport.
British.
We collect the passport.
Yeah.
The problem here is this: we provide civic education. The way forward in this is, Ambassador Morgan, Honorable former Minister, is political will. The political will in the leadership in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Because the interface of the South Sudan to the international community is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, for example, the deportation of somebody called
Nimeri Garang.
Nimeri Garang. Nimeri Garang was deported from the U.S.
Yes.
after he was issued a magistrable document of the Republic of South Sudan. Nimeri Garang, in my view, has never committed any crime. South Sudan Embassy in Washington issued travel document for him with the approval of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. When he arrived here, he was deported to U.S. And that would trigger the revocation of the visa. I just want to say categorically here that I want to appeal to Excellency the President. There must be a thorough investigation a committee must be formed to investigate the fiasco of the deportation of the Nimeri Garang.
Because the victims is us, the South Sudanese.
Every South Sudanese now cannot travel to the US. They have been victimized. Because of the mistake done in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the embassy in Washington. This thing cannot be swept by dismissing the former Minister of Foreign Affairs. It is bigger than the former Minister of Foreign Affairs. That's one. Other question which I want to ask you, Petia, is this. I don't know whether you followed the news recently. The African Union, IGAD, RJMEC, Troika, and EU issue a statement. Issue a statement. I have been an ambassador myself. You have been an ambassador before you became Minister of Foreign Affairs. In this country where we are posted, no ambassador, I mean no ambassador, accredited anywhere in the world, can go and start demanding the host country, ABCD must be done, otherwise this will happen. It has never happened. Now, there is a decision taken on national security by the government of the Republic of South Sudan to detain the first vice president. And the investigation is still going on. What right, Honorable former Minister, does African Union, IGAD, RJMEC, Troika, EU, and others have to demand that this process must be released without due processes? Now, when you look at the site, in Uganda, Besigye was transferred from Uganda, Kenya, arrested in Kenya, brought to Uganda, up to now it's been tried. There's no delegation of African Union who went there. Uganda is member of IGAD. IGAD have never raised issue about it. African Union never raised issue about it. The same Troika have never said anything about Besigye detention. Same with Tanzania. Tanzania now has the opposition leader being tried in Tanzania. The same language which has been applied to South Sudan is not being applied here. The question is, Honorable Minister, as a former minister, I've never been a minister. My role is ambassador. Why do you think that this double standard has been applied on South Sudan and not other countries?
Yes, welcome, please. You can just make
well,
it.
these are very long questions. But let me go back to the issue, first of all, of the revocation of the visa,
yes,
which was caused by this guy called Nimeri Garang. You see, we have something called emergency traveling document.
Yeah.
This emergency traveling document is given to a South Sudanese national outside South Sudan. Nimeri Garang was given this emergency traveling document in Washington, D.C. by the directives of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And that was where the mistake was. Nimeri Garang was not verified as a South Sudanese. How he entered U.S., that history even was not known. And the guy now, once you give somebody a document identifying him as a South Sudanese, outside there, he's already a South Sudanese. And that was the mistake. So the question should go back. Who gave Nimeri Garang that document, which made him to look South Sudanese when he was in Washington, D.C.? That was mistake number one. Number two is the embassy in Washington, D.C. has given Nimeri Garang that document. The embassy in Washington, D.C. said they gave the document maybe by the directives of the headquarters. But how did even the headquarters knew Nimeri Garang to authorize the embassy to give Nimeri Garang that document? That is the area which need, like you mentioned, investigation. That is the area that needs to be investigated. Now, going to the revocation, suspension, and cancellation of the visa for every South Sudanese holding South Sudanese passport cannot travel to the United States because of that. But that should not be the case. The issue of Nimeri Garang is not that big to the level of suspending, cancellation, and the revocation. But we can say that, you know, the snail snail is something that goes very slowly. It doesn't have speed. And if the police traffic can come and that is you, snail, you are speeding, I give you a ticket because you are speeding. Everybody will say that, this is police traffic may be crazy. The snail is no speed. What I mean to say here is that the revocation, suspension, and the cancellation of the visas on South Sudan may be a hidden agenda for something else. It is not because of this issue of Nimeri Garang. Who is Nimeri Garang? To bring the two nations, two great nations, to the extent of the standoff on the issue of the visa. That is not the case. There is something deeper than that, which we leave it for another day.
Need to be
I have a follow-up question now. Another
yes,
thing.
we leave it for another day.
Leave that one now.
No, for the benefit of the viewers, Taban, we have type of traveling documents. We have diplomatic passport, then we have a special passport, and then we have ordinary passport, then emergency traveling.
There is also official passport.
No, only these four in the law. It is in the law there. This is the four type of documents where can allow South Sudanese to have it, which is diplomatic passport, special passports, and then ordinary passport, then emergency traveling.
Emergency traveling documents when
business passports.
Our law need to be amended because if you're saying like that, our laws of immigration, passport and nationality need to be amended, but it is there.
And this,
what I'm talking is just
and this
within the context of law.
Emergency traveling document is not for somebody to travel from the country outside. It is given to the embassies to rescue a South Sudanese citizen when he's in a critical situation so that they can come back home. And that is why I said, how comes it that this Nimeri Garang was able to get that document?
Anyway, let's leave that one
so
there.
now we come to the last...
Let me ask you another question. There
was a question that you already asked.
I'm saying that the issue of sanction.
Okay.
Now, Honorable Former Minister, South Sudan has been under sanction for some years now. Every year, there's a routine extension.
Yes.
And it doesn't require rocket scientists to know that America and its European allies have decided, no matter what we do, they want a regime change agenda. This must not be hidden anymore. You and I, we were together in negotiation at Addis Ababa. This has been the position of regime change. This country does not want the government of President Salva Kiir. And this, if our people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs doesn't know this, today they must know. Given that background, we cannot be able to persuade America or the European to change their stand on the issue of the arm embargo and the target sanction. Knowing that is the situation, Honorable Minister, why is it that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is not investing in persuading Russia and China to earn their veto power? Because since you're a minister, Russia and China have never used veto power on South Sudan. They always vote abstention. That's the least they have done. They never voted in favor of the resolution, but they vote for abstention.
Give him chance because
so please, what will be the way forward?
Well, the problem is this. The veto power, I will just go straight to the question. The veto power is something that the 5 nations, which permanent members of the UN Security Council, the 5 countries, they're using that veto power for something else. When Russia or China or the United States and France and Britain, when they give you that veto power to vote, of course, one is enough. One veto power is enough to cancel everything. If Russia puts its veto power on us, that means everything will be removed, because that is what it is. It doesn't need it doesn't need 2 of them, even China. Even China voted for veto power to support us, that is enough. But the problem is they use it for their own interests. How much or what? Like, for example, when, let me give example. When Ukraine was invaded by Russia, the UN General Assembly called for a meeting of all member states. All member states were called to examine whether the invasion of Ukraine was justified. All the countries in the world said it was unjustified. Only 5 countries in the world said it was justified. It was Russia itself, and then Belarus, and then Venezuela, and then
North Korea,
and North Korea,
and Eritrea.
and then Eritrea. These 5 countries in the heart of Russia now, if there's anything touching these 4 countries, because the 5th one was Russia itself. So if anything happens to these countries, yes, Russia immediately will use its veto power to protect them. Like I said, in the diplomacy, it is about interests. It is not about anything. It is about interests. So these countries which are having veto powers, they are weighing on us what interest that they have on us, and do they trust us that if we put our veto power on South Sudan will stand with us to the end. These are diplomacy, and this is how they navigate. So to get the veto power is not easy. It was only Ethiopia also got veto power from Russia and China when there was a war in northern Ethiopia, the war in Tigray for 2 years. And that goes back also to the question that Ambassador John Duku asked before, that why the other countries have the internal problems, and he brought the issue of Basije, he brought the issue of the opposition in Tanzania called Mr. Lucy, whatever the name is. And then, of course, what is happening is this. We came as a new nation, and everybody want to crush us. Any internal problems of South Sudan is always being interfered with.
Okay.
When I was an ambassador in African Union, I asked a former president of
Just
Nigeria.
Just make it brief so that we are running out of time.
Yeah.
Just you conclude.
Yeah. I asked Obasanjo on the same issue of South Sudan. I asked Obasanjo that our president signed a very tough, difficult agreement here in this hall in Addis Ababa. 27 factions, some of which were just a briefcase groups. They didn't have even an army. But our president signed that agreement for the sake of peace. Why is it that, because that was the issue of the Tigray, why is it that other countries always consider that this is our internal problem, we don't like any foreign intervention? So these are the things, Duku.
Wonderful.
We will have it.
Lado,
than that.
توصية بتاعك لزملاء في المؤسسات الموجودة في جوبا سيتي كانسل وفي نفس الوقت لجنوبيين عن حاجات اللي قاعد يحصل ده، انت بتوصي شنو عشان نقدر نطلع خلاص برا من البرنامج؟
شكرا يا كارلو. انا داير اوصي لحكومه عامه وبالذات سيتي كانسل. سيتي كانسل لما مستفيد من تجار. إذا هو ركز عشان ينظم الأسواق، ما هو تنظيم ده دير شنو؟ ما دير قانون. كل ما يتبع كتو قانون، كل ما أي زول بيخاف من القانون. ما في قانون أعلى من زول. لأنه إذا كان يتسيبوا حاجة ده، ناس بقى بيستغلوا شغلانية بويلبر وبيفرشوا تحت، وناس زي ما بيدافعوا ولا ضريبة ليتا ولا بيعمل لك حاجة، حقه تشوف لهم نظام. تشوف لهم نظام. ده هو مشكلة دور الفات أنا اتكلمت عن موضوع باس باك. ما عندنا محطات باصات أصلا. طيب أصلا زي ويلبر ده مفروض بيشوفوا محل فاضي بوديمون فوقه. ما ده سوق. كانوا من غير توبي يسونو هنا ولا يسونو هنا ناس بروح. لكن محل ما في اللي بودي لهم. عشان كده هم السرة يجي وين؟ لشارع.
ما يدين كل نكمو.
وشارع ده فيه خطورة يا كارلو.
في حاجة تانية بسيط عشان تبقى واين اب. أنا أعرف كاستوم ده كان محل دامبينج سايت زمان بابا كان عمده. يلا وتابع لجامعة جوبا. حصل بينهم حوار علشان ما يودي لسيتي كانسل. هل حصل التجار الموجود في محل إن لنا التابع لمحل جامع جوبا ده. هل ثبتوا لهم محل بقى محل عام عشان هم نقدر نبني بالبرمننت بيلدينج ماتيريالز ولا كيف ولا بس تمبراري يا بيجيب لنا حاجات بشكل زي ده؟
تعرف موضوع جامع جوبا ده انا واحد منه ذاته عندنا مشكله مع جامع جوبا. جامع جوبا ده داير يعمل حنك.
ايوه
في شارع هناك بدخل كده ليوكرين ساوث. وده هنا ده حدود تاع جامع جوبا الفيو بيلاس عملوا هوستو بزين كده. ده المفروض يا حدود تاع جامع جوبا. لكن جامع جوبا هسا محل جبالنا كلم قال لحد جد هناك ده شارع هناك ده جامع جوبا ده قال كله كاستم ده قال بتوع. في كلام زي ده الحد بتوعه يعودك هناك في محل داك. عشان كده مساحات الفي هناك في مساحات ورا حكومة كان قسموا لناس وفي ناس
للتجار يعني
للتجارة وفي ناس استغلوا الكلام ده. لما جوبا استغل الكلام ده وطردوا ناس ده او كان مفروض سيتي كانسل يشيلوا ناس ديل في الشارع ده تاوي البرات وناس اللي فرسوا تحت ده برو دي بجوا هناك. واي محل كان فتحوا السوق ودو جماعه ده هناك انا متاكد الناس كله برو في المحل ده
وندفل
وبيخففوا شنو؟ الزحمه في الشارع. نفس الوقت ده الشارع ذاته فيه خطوره بالنسبه للهاجر ده. ما في ناس بيسوقوا عربيه.
يلا بموجب الكلام ده رساله بتاعك الاخير فيه عشان نقدر فرصه كمان. لا ده زمن تاعنا بس دقيقه بس ده. رساله كل زول ده الضيوف بتاعنا كانوا يجيبوا رساله الاخير ونمشي الرساله لل زمن تاعنا بقى مشكله.
رساله تاعي الاخير. المطافي هم ما قاعد يراقبوا نظام شغلتهم. لانه مطافي بصراحه في كل الدقاقين في كونيو كونيو ولا في اي محل ممكن يشيل قروش. في حاجه قال قروش تا رسوم تا مطافي. طيب لما يحصل حريقه وينو تا رسوم ده ومعلومه على قلنا
انا ندس ولا كده بيتم بواجهته بسورة
بس ما كتير.
Honorable Minister, you are in African Union and you know the chapter 5 of this agreement, there is something on hybrid court. You were there.
Yes.
And then article 5.5.1 is talking is about those who are holding the offices. When they are indicted, they must relinquish the office. This article is directly targeting the president of the republic because you were there in African Union and you know more about this article than anybody else in South Sudan right now because of the African Union situation now.
Yes.
Now this hybrid court and then the truth and reconciliation healing process. Please enlighten on this as part of your conclusion.
Yes, from there also can put.
Then I can conclude from there. Yes. This article, when I was in African Union, I killed it because it didn't follow the procedures. It was brought up, yes. It was brought up when I was there, and we had a meeting in Accra, in Ghana. And I didn't have means of traveling to Ghana, but good enough, I was put on the Zoom. On the Zoom, I was able to fight until we defeated the legal council of the African Union because the legal council did not follow the procedures. And that was the end of this article, which was talking about indictment.
Yes.
First of all, they were basing everything on the Obasanjo report. The Obasanjo report didn't have facts. It was collected from hearsay. It didn't have evidence. So when I presented my case because I knew that Obasanjo report cannot take anybody to court. And I was able to garner the support of all the African Union ambassadors to support me. Everybody was saying the ambassador of South Sudan is right. This report of Obasanjo has no basis which can be cannot be substantiated. Number one. Number two, was also the funding which the United States of America wanted to fund the court. Out of all the articles, the United States wanted only to fund the court, which also I told them it was wrong. The court, the case is very clear here. First of all, any hybrid court to take place, it must start from our Transitional National Assembly here in Juba. It cannot start from the African Union. So I won. I defeated.
Wonderful. Then your final
my
message,
final.
So that because these things need another program.
Yeah, we will.
And I'm inviting you in advance.
Yes.
We shall organize another program. So we talk about that.
Exactly.
And then it will be part of our civic education.
I will give it to you one by one when you make it as a different program.
Yes, yeah.
Because now we're in a hurry.
Wonderful.
So let me summarize this.
Yeah.
One, we have to work on our foreign policy. Number two, the issue of receiving these criminals being brought here must not
continue.
It must not continue. The criminals must be received by the law enforcement people in the airport to tell them that there is also law here.
Yeah.
So that let them not come here and then form something called niggers or whatever. Number three is about other interferences in our internal matters. We have problems in our country. We have capacity to solve these problems. So we cannot, anytime happening here, nobody should interfere with it. Number four, and then finally, is that the sanctions, it is a national duty. Once a country is sanctioned, I challenge these sanctions also, because I said we have the UN Agenda 2030, which is calling for sustainable development of African countries. Number two, we have Agenda 2063 of African Union, that is a blueprint. So if their country is going to be sanctioned, then how are we going to cope up with all these agendas? I won this, and also it came out in the resolution of 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023.
Wonderful.
Today I have the copy of the one of 2023. So as a nation, we need to garner all our support behind our president so that we can fight these sanctions together.
We are going to host you again. For
so
the
thank you very
much.
much.
Our viewers around the world and across South Sudan, you can follow SSBC in YouTube. Please, that one is nice. And you have to follow us there and then make your comment there. كده هنا وصلنا لنهاية البرنامج بتاعنا. إن شاء الله هنتواصل معكم في الأسابيع القادم. إلى اللقاء. شكرا جزيلا كلكم.
Thank you.
يا شكرا. شكرا.
Thank you very much.
يا شكرا.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.